Revenge with Karen.
Why the hell is payroll crashing again? Our CFO barked into Slack, tagging the wrong team for the third time that month. I was elbows deep in patching someone else's API call, again, when the message popped up. I didn't even flinch. Just sipped the cold half of my coffee and typed back. It's the same unpatched logic error from last sprint. Pushed a fix to QA. Again. No reply. A silence, and that same dull ache behind my left eye that shows up whenever I remember my job title, technically includes the word senior. I've been senior here at Nova Sync for 6 years, which really just means I've had front row seats to a rotating cast of tech execs misquoting strategy books and calling it vision. This company used to be a scrappy underdog, the kind where you stayed late not because you were forced, but because you actually gave a shit. I built most of the data infrastructure back when product roadmap meant whiteboards and half-eaten bagels, not slide decks and buzzwords. Then the investors started sniffing around. Then came the rebrand. Then came Kendra. Kendra, our freshly imported VP of product, came in like she was auditioning for a biopic no one asked for. Bleach white smile. Ice blonde bob, wardrobe of color-coordinated power, jumpsuits that looked like she ordered them from a motivational speaker starter kit. She introduced herself by saying, "I don't need to understand the tech. I manage the humans who do." Then she made a joke about emotional bandwidth that I think was supposed to be inspiring. The first all-hands she led, she announced, "This is a new chapter for Nova Sync. We're moving fast and breaking things." I nearly laughed, knew she didn't understand what we were holding together with duct tape and prayer. She didn't even ask for a technical walkthrough. Just scheduled daily stand-ups we didn't need, and then showed up late with an iced matcha and ideas stolen from Medium posts. Kendra loved data dashboards, but never read the logs. She asked why our staging environment was so ugly, and when I explained it was a test build not meant for aesthetics, she nodded and said, "Fix that with storytelling." Whatever the hell that means. She ignored warnings like they were spam emails. I once raised a flag in a cross-functional meeting about a faulty pipeline Travis, her golden retriever of an intern, had committed without review. She smiled at me, then turned to the room and said, "Let's not gatekeep innovation just because some people are comfortable." That some people was me. Same some people who built the back end, she now kept tripping over like it was my fault she didn't read the confluence. I didn't say anything. I never do. I just nodded, added another note to my running Google Doc titled "When This Eventually Breaks," and kept my head down. The junior devs still came to me for help when things really got weird. I fixed their queries, taught them how not to nuke production by accident, quietly rewrote the scripts their product managers claimed they designed. I was the one who stayed after hours to babysit overnight deployments. Not because I loved it, because I knew if I didn't, we'd all wake up to a wildfire. Nobody notices when the walls don't cave in. They only notice when they do. And I'd made myself so good at preventing collapse that I became invisible. Invisibility was reinforced every time Kendra dragged Travis up during Team RetroS to celebrate a fast pivot, even though I was the one who rewrote half his garbage code before it went live. Every time she gave updates to the board, my name didn't come up once. But she sure liked citing our resilient infrastructure like she personally soldered it together. The worst part wasn't the silence. It was the expectation that I'd keep doing it. I'd keep pulling extra hours, writing clean commits, fixing their chaos, and smiling when they gave me $20 DoorDash credits as a thank you for saving a $3 million rollout from collapsing. So I kept showing up, fixing things, making sure nobody got embarrassed on investor calls, quietly gutting Travis's bad merges and pushing functional builds under his name because it's good for morale. And still, I wasn't in the room when it mattered, till the moment Kendra looked me dead in the eye, smirked like I'd asked for a trip to the moon, and rolled her eyes at my vacation request. That was the last time I let them pretend I wasn't there. It was a Tuesday, not a particularly dramatic day. No server crashes, no screaming stakeholders. Just the low hum of keyboards and the occasional hiss of a La Croix being cracked open like it was some kind of reward for surviving adulthood. And me, sitting in the corner of the open office, rehearsing what should have been the simplest sentence in the world, "I'd like to take next week off." I'd booked it months ago. A quiet spa in Sedona, prepaid. No tech, no Wi-Fi, No people asking me if localhost was the name of our cloud provider. Just me, red rocks, and a massage therapist named Dina, who promised to realign every vertebra in my abused spine. It was going to be the first real break I'd taken since before the pandemic. I wasn't asking for sabbatical, just 5 damn weekdays. So I walk into our morning stand-up with my little note to self in my Slack draft, ready to officially submit the time-off request after we sync. I even dressed up, clean hoodie, non-wrinkled jeans, hair not in a bun for once. I felt human. But the second I opened my mouth, hey, quick note before we wrap, I'd like to officially log PTO for next week, Kendra cut me off with a noise. One of those short, derisive puffs of air that wasn't quite a laugh, more like a dog's sneeze of contempt. We're this close to launch, she said, turning to Travis like I was the class clown asking to skip finals. And you want a vacation? She said vacation like it was a sex crime. Everyone froze. Our UX lead coughed into his sleeve. Travis looked like he wanted to melt into the Jira board. Kendra didn't stop there. Oh no. She tilted her head in mock understanding and added, loud enough for the entire team to hear, of course. I guess some people need rest. No worries. Then came the eye roll. Full theatrical tilt. Eyes to the ceiling, neck tilt, exhale through the nose. If her pupils had made one more orbit, we'd have needed IT support. I smiled, or something like it. I said thanks, clipped and clean, and she waved me off like a gnat. Then she clapped her hands together and said, no big deal, Travis will handle deployment. It's not that deep, not that deep. I think something cracked behind my ribcage. It wasn't just the dismissal. It was the certainty. The way she didn't even ask if Travis had done deployment before he hadn't. The way she didn't consult the checklist I'd personally curated for 3 years. The way she looked at me like I was the inconvenience. Like she was doing me a favor letting me leave. I watched Travis's Adam's apple jump as he nodded too fast, like a puppy eager for praise. He looked at me, desperate, apologetic, terrified. But he didn't say no. He wouldn't dare. After the meeting, he shuffled over to my desk, practically whispering, hey, would you maybe mind showing me how you usually prep the pipeline? Just want to make sure I do it right. I stared at him for a beat too long. I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell him to go ask his mentor, the one who handed him the keys to a $150 million launch like it was a high school group project. But I didn't, because that's not what ghosts do. We don't make noise, we haunt, so I nodded, sure, I'll write it all up. No problem, he smiled in relief, you're a lifesaver. I wasn't. The moment he walked away, I opened up the deployment checklist doc, duplicated it, and began making edits. I simplified it just enough to be understandable, just enough to look complete. I included links. I left breadcrumbs, and I made one subtle adjustment no one would notice unless they knew what they were looking for. I pointed the demo subdomain, Demo Novsinkio, to staging instead of production. That was it. No hacks. No malicious script. No sabotage. Just one DNS setting. I knew Kendra wouldn't check. She didn't believe in QA. She believed in trusting the team. She believed in Travis's hustle and youthful energy. And I believed in cause and effect. By the end of the day, I had my PTO approved in the HR system. Kendra sent a thumbs-up emoji in Slack and added, enjoy your trip. We'll hold down the fort's smiling face with sunglasses. I stared at that emoji for a long time. I wasn't angry. I was steady. That's the word for it. Not boiling, not explosive, just steady. You can only scream into the void so many times before you stop needing to scream at all. Let them hold the fort. Let Travis handle deployment. I booked a deep tissue massage, confirmed my reservation, and turned off my GitHub notifications. The hamster was already dancing. They just didn't know it yet. On my last day before Sedona, I brought donuts. Not the corporate kind either. Not those dry, discount rings from the supermarket bakery. I'm talking fresh-fried, glazed sticky, still warm from a little Polish place off I-71 that doesn't even have a sign out front. Box of 12. Maple, raspberry jam, cinnamon sugar. I placed them right on the breakroom table like a peace offering to a kingdom that never knew my name. Treats. I chirped to the room, my voice a little too chipper. Last day before I disappear into the desert. No one really looked up. A few vague thanks, one you shouldn't have, and Travis nodding like I was his babysitter giving him a gold star. Kendra didn't show. She was offsite at some pre-demo influencer sync, whatever that means. I sat back at my desk, queued up the last walkthrough for Travis, and started screen recording. It was all there, deployment prep, environment variables, rollbacks, DNS refreshes, branch merges, the works. I'd built this ritual over years of trial by fire, and now I was handing it off like an antique I knew would be dropped. He showed up late to our one-on-one, smelling like cologne and cold brew, sweaty palmed and eager. Hey, ready for my brain download? I smiled. Sure, let's get you the keys to the kingdom. I walked him through the process, slowly, like teaching a toddler how to pet a porcupine. He nodded, took notes in Apple Notes like some sort of masochist, and kept saying things like this is so much easier than I thought it'd be. And honestly, I think we overcomplicate a lot of this stuff. I didn't flinch, because I wasn't thinking about Travis. I was thinking about DNS records. You see, Travis didn't know we kept two environments public-facing. The production instance, locked, stable, polished, and the staging one, technically live but unindexed and full of placeholders. The hamster lived there. A purple background, neon Comic Sans header that read, "Insert product brilliance here," and of course, center stage. A pixelated, infinite loop dancing hamster gif I dropped in for internal giggles weeks ago. It was meant to remind the team that our revolutionary redesign was still 80% duct tape and 20% hope. In a company where nobody ever reads the deployment notes, this hamster had become my silent protest, and now it had a job to do. All I had to do was point the Demo Novosinkio CNAME record toward staging instead of production. Just a small, silent redirect. Nothing broken, nothing illegal, nothing traceable unless you knew what to look for. And Kendra? She didn't know what to look for. She didn't even know what QA stood for. So after Travis bumbled out of our meeting with 3 donut napkins and a confidence far above his pay grade, I pushed one final commit. A config file with an updated routing variable. I tagged it, noted it, signed it. All documented, all approved. Technically clean, ethically arguable, legally untouched. There were no bugs, no tampering, no backdoors. Just a live link to an unreleased placeholder site that looked like someone let a Reddit thread code our homepage. I logged it all. Time-stamped, annotated. I even slacked Travis and said, "All set on the DNS side, just make sure you pull from the latest config when you go live." He replied with a muscle arm emoji. Perfect. I zipped up my laptop, cleared my desk, and grabbed one final cinnamon twist before heading out. Sun was already low when I pulled out of the lot. Red and heavy, like it knew what was coming. My phone buzzed, calendar reminder. Oasis Spa arrival plus orientation. I smiled. On the flight to Arizona, I turned off my Slack, disabled email, deleted GitHub from my home screen. When the flight attendant offered me a drink, I asked for ginger ale and a lime wedge. When the guy next to me asked what I did for a living, I said, landscaping. Sedona was quiet. Still, the Red Rocks didn't care about bandwidth or code freezes or intern mistakes. Dina at the spa smiled like she hadn't spent the last 6 years buried in sprint planning. When she laid her hands on my back, I felt everything leave me, Kendra's voice, Travis's fumbling optimism, the eye roll, the DoorDash gift cards. In that moment, I was air. And somewhere, silently, the hamster danced. Sun hit the red cliffs in Sedona like someone lit the edges on fire. I was floating in a mineral pool, head back, arms slack, the water just warm enough to make me forget the feel of my keyboard. No notifications, no noise, no eye rolls from executives who think agile means skipping QA, just the sound of the desert breathing. Meanwhile, back in HQ, the interns were burning. Not literally, of course, though if someone had screamed fire in the dev channel, I'm not sure anyone would have questioned it. Tension had been creeping in ever since I left. The way I know is because Jen, our quietly brilliant front-end dev who plays dumb to survive, sent me a photo. It was of a whiteboard. At the top, in Kendra's handwriting, was scrawled, "Demo launch, the future is now." Underneath were 3 bullet points: clean UI feelings first design, trust the pipeline. Intern-led innovation equals authenticity. Jen captioned it, "You sure picked the right week to disappear, lol." Travis is vibrating. I didn't reply. Just looked at it, smiled to myself, and took another sip of my hibiscus iced tea. Back at Nova Sync, Travis was not doing well. From what I gathered through the few breadcrumbs that filtered into my still logged-in desktop Slack, he'd accidentally pushed 2 conflicting commits to the demo branch and couldn't figure out why the production site looked off. Hamster hadn't fully loaded yet, but things weren't exactly sleek. He'd pinged Miguel, the dev ops guy, who gave him a tight-lipped "you should talk to Kendra about approvals." Miguel knew better than to touch it. He'd been there longer than me. He'd seen what happened to the last person who raised a flag too loudly, quietly restructured out of existence during a team refresh. So instead, everyone watched as Travis stumbled through command lines he didn't fully understand. They watched as Kendra blasted Slack with final versions of the investor deck, changing font sizes and color themes like that would stop the world from burning. And they said nothing. Not because they were lazy, because they were scared. You could smell it through the screen. Kendra had built a culture of yes to her ideas, yes to unrealistic timelines, yes to decisions made with zero technical vetting. And if you didn't say yes fast enough, suddenly you weren't invited to meetings. Suddenly, your pull requests got lost in review. Suddenly, your seat at the table disappeared like it never existed. So no one told her the demo build looked different. No one told her Travis was winging it. No one told her that I had been the only one who ever double-checked routing configs, and now I was 600 miles away, floating in a pool with clay on my face and zero intention of logging back in. I let it all unfold in silence. One moment, I'm meditating under a juniper tree, a cool towel on my neck, the sound of wind rustling through branches. Next moment, Travis is standing in front of the projector screen in the conference room, whispering, "Why is it purple?" while Kendra breezes by with a venti coffee and zero curiosity. That was the game. She didn't check. She never checked. She assumed the system would obey, that Travis would rise to the moment, that the old guard like me weren't necessary because we asked too many inconvenient questions. From what I heard, she spent most of Wednesday afternoon rehearsing the demo script in the executive boardroom, wearing a blazer so bright it could be seen from space, practicing phrases like market disruptor and seamless data integrity in front of a mirror. She didn't even test the damn site. Not once. The engineers, they peeked. They saw the hints, the default font, the way the login button didn't quite match the mockups, the placeholder text buried in the About section that still read, lorem ipsum $sit amit, insert value prop here. They knew, but they didn't move. Because if Travis was Kendra's handpicked golden boy, then any red flags meant challenging her. And nobody survived that without a shiv in the back. Meanwhile, I was sipping cucumber water and watching the clouds roll over Cathedral Rock. The spa played whale noises. I played a little game in my head called Guess the Minute It Implodes. It wasn't joy I felt. Not quite. It was distance. Clarity. That sweet, still moment when you've stepped out of a burning building and you're standing across the street watching smoke curl out of the windows. Not my problem anymore. I had laid every brick, every beam, every safety rail. Now the house was in the hands of people who thought fire exits were optional. Tick, tick, tick. The morning of the demo, I was lying in a hammock, not a metaphor, an actual hammock, strung between two juniper trees, swaying just slightly in the breeze. I had a clay mask drying across my face, a lavender-scented eye pillow resting gently over my lids, and a glass of something citrusy sweating on the table beside me. I hadn't opened my laptop in 4 days. My phone was on Do Not Disturb, buried somewhere under a pile of spa brochures and half-read paperbacks. But I could feel it, a static charge in the air, like the hum of electricity before a storm. Somewhere, back in the cold, over-designed conference room in Cleveland, Nova Sync was suiting up for battle. The live stream was scheduled for 10 a.m. Pacific. I knew the timing by heart. I'd prepped for this exact kind of launch at least a dozen times over the years. This time, I wasn't on call. This time, they'd replaced me with a kid who once asked if pseudo was short for suddenly. Back at HQ, the war room had been converted into a theater of the absurd. Kendra stood center stage, nerves lacquered beneath 2 coats of concealer, her blazer pressed to corporate perfection, clicker in hand like a general leading a PowerPoint invasion. She was flanked by the CEO, 2 marketing leads, and Travis, who had now chewed through almost an entire pack of gum and hadn't stopped blinking since 8 a.m. The Zoom call was live 15 minutes early. On it, 17 investors, 3 international, 2 ex-Google, 1 early backer of a now public logistics unicorn. Collectively, over $150 million in potential funding dangling like a carrot above Kendra's glittering ambitions. In the Slack thread archived forever in company lore, someone from finance pinged, "Direct hit, this is it, team. No room for error, all eyes on us." And just 2 messages later from legal, "Is my name on standby for deployment integrity?" That one sat unanswered. The silence was loud. 10 minutes before launch, Travis noticed something was off. A button wasn't animating like it had in Figma. A login field displayed username in all caps, a weird default that should have been caught in staging. Someone muttered about font weights. Another person said, "Do we have a fallback error page?" And the room went quiet. Kendra, brushing lint off her sleeve, said without looking up, "It's fine. It's already approved. Let's not overcomplicate the narrative." That's when someone finally said it out loud. "Wait, who actually signed off on the final deployment?" Eyes turned to Travis. He swallowed hard and replied, I pulled the version she showed me. It looked right. She said it was clean." "Did you test the domain?" asked Miguel, now suddenly appearing from the shadows like a guilt-soaked conscience. Travis blinked. "Well, no. I mean, it was working when I checked staging." And still, Kendra didn't flinch. She waved a manicured hand in the air like she was swatting away a mosquito made of reason. "This isn't the time to second guess. We're live in 3. The CEO, who had been scrolling through his iPad this whole time, likely memorizing names to pretend he remembered them, looked up. "Where's my name?" he asked. His voice was casual, like someone asking if they left their keys on the counter. Kendra turned to him with a smile so tight it could slice glass. "On vacation," she said. "Everything's covered." The CEO raised one eyebrow, not two, just one. "The universal corporate symbol for that better be true." 10 seconds. 9. 8. They patched in the screen share, full-screened the browser, and pulled up the live demo. "My domain." Kendra straightened her spine. Travis crossed himself like a man about to face a firing squad. The investors leaned in. Someone on mute cleared their throat. 3, 2, 1, click. The site began to load. First came the background, a royal purple, garish and loud, not part of any branding guide. Then the neon Comic Sans title, "Insert product brilliance here," blinking across the top like a bad joke. And then, center screen in glorious pixelation, the hamster, looping, dancing. Forever. Hamster danced with the vigor of 1,000 mismanaged deadlines, jiggling to some silent, cursed beat. Eyes dead, joy infinite. In Sedona, I reached for my drink and took a long, slow sip. At HQ, no one moved. The first voice came not from Kendra, not from Travis, not from the CEO. It came from an investor. An older man, muted but visible, mouthing the word, "What?" Then came the click-clack of frantic typing from the CTO. Kendra stared at the screen like it had slapped her. Her mic was hot, and in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, "No, no, 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 no." The hamster kept dancing. And so did I. The screen was locked in a moment of pure corporate humiliation, purple background, blinking Comic Sans, and a looped gif of a hamster dancing like it just snorted a rail of fun dip. There was no product, no UI walkthrough, no sleek data visualizations, just that cursed rodent shaking its ass under the bolded phrase, "Insert product brilliance here." For 3 full seconds, nothing happened. No one spoke, no one blinked, and then a ping from the investor chat window. "Is this part of the presentation?" Another ping, "This doesn't seem secure." Then a third, "Why does the login button say YOLO?" Kendra's jaw unhinged like she was about to swallow the entire conference table. Her mouth moved, but her brain hadn't caught up yet. Mike, tragically unmuted, picked up her breathless horror. "No, no, no." The CEO turned to her. "What is this?" he asked, slow, like he was trying not to spook a wild animal. I don't know," she stammered, fingers twitching toward her laptop as if sheer proximity would make the hamster go away. The hamster did not go away. The hamster thrived. CTO Brian, who'd been silently nursing an ulcer for months, lunged toward his terminal, rattling keys like a man defusing a bomb with seconds left. He pulled up logs, scanned routing tables, and then froze. "What domain is this running on?" he asked, voice a dead monotone. Travis answered too fast, demo.novasync.io. Brian stared at the screen like it had personally betrayed him. "That's staging." Kendra whipped around. "That's not possible." I approved Travis's push. Travis, already halfway under the table in spirit, held up his hands like he'd just been caught with a BB gun and a broken window. "I pulled what was live on Thursday." I didn't know it was." Brian cut him off. "Who was the last to touch the deployment configs?" Silence. Then, from the back of the room, a lone voice, Jen, God bless her, murmured, "She set PTO status." Before she left, she said it was all documented. I think she left instructions." All eyes turned to Kendra. Her face had gone gray, not the elegant kind. The kind that makes HR start glancing at the emergency contact sheet. "She set this up?" the CEO asked, his tone sharp and quiet. Kendra scrambled. She must have pointed it wrong," or Brian said slowly, "You never switched it after staging." The hamster's dance loop continued. One leg out. One leg in, wiggle, wiggle, repeat. Someone muted Kendra's mic, finally. Her breathing started sounding like a deflating bounce house. The investors were still watching. No one had logged off. Some were just staring. Others were smirking. Then one unmuted, a woman from a London firm that had been sniffing around for months. Is this meant to demonstrate your platform's stability? No one answered. She smiled like a shark. Interesting. In Sedona, I had just finished a lemongrass foot soak and was being led to a cabana for my sound bath. My phone buzzed once, a silent call. Then again. Then 3 texts, all from the same internal contact, all unread. I flipped my phone over and set it face down on a towel. Back in the war room, the chaos swirled into full meltdown. Brian was barking commands at the infrastructure team. Pull DNS logs. Repoint to production now. Travis, now visibly sweating, asked in a whisper if he should maybe just refresh the page. Kendra, staring hollow-eyed at the screen, mumbled something about branding inconsistencies. The CEO rubbed his temples so hard it looked like he might push his eyes back into his skull. I want a timeline, he said to no one in particular. Everything that happened since last Monday. Who approved what? When? Where the hell are the rollback notes? Gone, someone muttered. They were in her personal Notion. Of course they were, he whispered. Of course. Outside the Zoom call, Nova Sync's internal Slack exploded. Threads titled WTF is this messages like is this a joke? And Hamstergate, even a rogue gif of the hamster, now captioned, when you trust interns and ignore senior engineers. The hamster was not the failure. The hamster was the mirror. It reflected everything they'd ignored, every dismissed warning, every skipped code review, every sarcastic eye roll lobbed across a conference table like a grenade. Kendra, once the self-declared change agent, now looked like someone had pulled the plug on her soul. Travis had stopped speaking altogether. The CEO left the room mid-call and never came back. Meanwhile, the hamster kept dancing. The first call came during my sound bath. A peaceful, resonant hum rolled through the air as crystal bowls echoed like distant thunder. My phone, face down on a linen cloth beside me, lit up silently with a name I hadn't seen in years. Celia Kendra's EA. I didn't move, just let the vibrations from the bowls melt into my spine while the display faded back to black. Then another call. Unknown number, then another, then a buzz from my backup inbox. Then Slack 5, 10, 15 pings in a row. I didn't read any of them. The noise didn't belong here. In this world of eucalyptus towels, desert stillness, and 110-degree sun kissing the tops of red rocks, I was unreachable. Not absent, not offline. Unreachable. Somewhere, 600 miles away, Kendra was pacing in heels she couldn't walk in, probably snapping at her assistant like it was my fault she never learned the difference between staging and prod. Her panic wasn't personal. It was procedural. I was a lever. She wanted to pull me, fix the mess, pretend it was a technical hiccup, and get back to her pitch decks and perfume-plated strategy. She didn't want me. She wanted the ghost I used to be. And that ghost was gone. CEO's email came mid-massage. Short, cold, no apology, just, subject, urgent demo please advise on resolving current deployment state ASAP. I rolled onto my back, asked the masseuse for 5 minutes, and opened my laptop in the shade of a citrus tree. I typed one sentence. Hi B, I'm currently on PTO until next Tuesday. Please refer to Section 12C of my employment contract boundaries during approved leave. My name no malice, no pettiness, just corporate fluency weaponized with the precision of a scalpel. Back in Cleveland, legal had started sniffing around. The hamster wasn't the problem, they'd confirmed that much. The problem was negligence. Who approved the build? Who skipped testing? Who reassigned deployment responsibility to someone unqualified? There were receipts. So many receipts. Jen was the first. She leaked a screenshot of the Slack thread where Kendra said, "Don't need to QA a demo build, it's just optics." Then Miguel, bless him, forwarded an email chain marked LOW priority in which Travis asked if he should check staging, and Kendra replied, "Don't waste time, just push what's in the deck." A Google Doc started circulating. Anonymous. Titled, Documented Warnings Demo Routing and CA Ignored Timestamps. Screenshots. Thread links. Internal tickets marked resolved with no actual fix. My name appeared in over a dozen of them. So did my documentation trail. They hadn't just failed. They'd failed loudly and in full view of people who knew how to read audit trails. The board was looped in. The CTO requested a forensic review of all config changes from the last 14 days. And HR, sweet, slow HR, sent out a survey titled, How Can We Improve Internal Communication? By Thursday evening, Kendra's calendar went dark. Slack status changed to OOO family emergency. But the engineers knew. The ones who'd been talked over, ignored, gaslit, they knew what was happening. She was circling the drain. I got a text from Jen, just wanted to say thank you. We thought we were crazy. I replied, you weren't. You were just quiet. Then I turned my phone off again. Silence wasn't passive, it was strategic. For 6 years, I'd been the net, one who caught the falling knives before anyone got cut. The one who fixed things in the dark and never asked for credit. And every time I'd spoken up, I'd been framed as a blocker. Too cautious, too legacy, so I stopped speaking. And they cut the net. Now they were all falling through. I didn't push. I just watched gravity do what it does. And somewhere, on screens across the company, the hamster still danced. By the time I stepped off the plane, Hamster had its own Slack emoji. I didn't even have to check. The flight attendant who handed me my tea whispered, "Cute backpack," then winked. It was just a plain canvas bag, but somewhere along the way, someone had slapped on a sticker, a purple background and that godforsaken gif, mid-thrust. Nova Sync had turned. The hamster wasn't a scandal anymore. It was folklore. What started as panic had mutated into catharsis. After the demo imploded, investors began ghosting. The London firm canceled the follow-up call. One of the California VCs left a single-line email, clearly not ready for enterprise scale. The hemorrhaging started quietly, but when the funding report landed on the CFO's desk Thursday morning with a giant $0 projected column, the CEO locked the door to the boardroom and didn't come out for 6 hours. That same afternoon, Kendra's name disappeared from the org chart. Official language, suspended pending internal review. Unofficially, she'd been served. Someone in HR had accidentally CC'd the entire exec team on a complaint packet that included screenshots, email threads, and a Google Doc titled The Hamster that could have been avoided. Section 4, Timeline of Dismissed Warnings. Her Slack status changed to last seen 3 days ago. Her email began auto-replying with, "This inbox is no longer monitored." Travis didn't get a public exit. He just vanished. One day he was reacting to a funny Jira comment with a face with tears of joy. The next his GitHub permissions were revoked and his desk was empty. HR claimed he transitioned to a new opportunity. The engineers joked he transitioned into the witness protection program. Meanwhile, the hamster marched on. The front-end team made a sticker pack. InfraCrew photoshopped its face over Kendra's on last year's company retreat poster. Someone created a Slack bot that posted the hamster whenever someone typed Synergy. It danced on mugs, on avatars, on the screen in the breakroom TV where monthly metrics were supposed to scroll. The product was still broken. Funding was drying up. But morale, oddly, soaring. Because now, for the first time in years, it felt like the silence had teeth. I walked into the office Monday morning, tan lines on my shoulders, sunglasses still on, iced coffee in hand. It felt like I'd stepped onto sacred ground. People looked up from their desks, smiled, nodded. One of the devs gave me a little 2-finger salute. Jen rolled past on her desk chair whispering, "The ghost returns." I wasn't returning. I was arriving. I didn't check in. I didn't badge up. I walked past the front desk and straight to my terminal like it was a throne they'd dusted off for me. That's when the ping came, a calendar invite. Subject, closed door CEO/CTO/HR confidential location. Exec conference room B, no agenda. Just my name on the list, bolded. I took a sip of my drink. No panic, no confusion, no fear. Let them sweat. I'd carried this company in silence for 6 years, fixed bugs without attribution, saved launches, ate pizza while others gave interviews. And when I left, when they chose to ignore me, they built a stage out of my warnings, wrapped it in hubris, and pressed launch. All I did was remove the safety net. They didn't fall because I sabotaged it. They fell because they never knew how high they were standing. I straightened my sunglasses, smoothed my shirt, and walked toward conference room B like I was already holding the deed. Not the ghost anymore, not the backup, not the girl who handles the tech stuff. I was the reckoning in wraparound lenses. Conference room B smelled like desperation and citrus-scented surface wipes. The kind they bring out before investor visits or after PR crises. Today, it was both. The CEO sat at the head of the table, no blazer, sleeves rolled up like he thought it would make him seem collaborative. Beside him, Ryan the CTO looked like he hadn't slept in days. Dark rings, shirt untucked, fingers twitching near his laptop like he was afraid I might vanish again. HR was there too, tight-lipped, hands folded, blinking too politely. I didn't sit immediately. I set my coffee down, iced, oat milk, extra cinnamon, and let the silence do what it does best, pressure. The CEO cleared his throat. Thanks for coming in. I nodded once. We've had some time to reflect. Continued, tone soft, like I was a feral cat they were trying to coax off a windowsill. We recognize, Brian jumped in, that your contributions have been, frankly, undervalued, and recent events have highlighted critical structural weaknesses. A pause. Then the CEO leaned forward. We'd like to offer you a new position. VP of Platform Stability. You'd report directly to me. Name your team, name your tools. You'll have autonomy. Was careful not to say the word sorry. None of them did. It hung there like the smell of burnt coffee and fake contrition. I took a long sip, let the ice clink around like wind chimes. Let me think on it, I said casually, like they were offering me a flavored seltzer I wasn't sure I wanted. Brian opened his mouth to say something else, but I reached into my pocket and slid my phone across the table. The screen lit up, a video, on loop. Kendra's face. Demo, lips forming the word no, over and over. The hamster dancing beside her perfectly synced. Wiggle, panic, wiggle, despair. HR's eyes widened. Brian let out a tiny breathless chuckle before choking it back. The CEO just stared at it like it might bite. I left it there. Picked up my drink. See, I said softly, you thought I was just the safety net. But I was also the ground. They didn't respond. They couldn't. I stood. Straightened my shirt. Took one last glance around the room. Their faces looked smaller now. Not evil, just small. Like children who finally realized the stove was hot. I nodded. Namaste, I said, and walked out. Not fast, not slow, just steady. The way tectonic plates move right before the earthquake. Big thanks, you legends of the old office days. Subscribe to keep the switch-flicking chaos alive. Your ex-boss is shaking in their loafers.